Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
And his Velma to his Louise, Jake.
gives you sports betting tips. I am Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Thursday, January 27th, 2022, and this episode covers today's best college basketball bets. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model that predicts what the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C pick for each of today's games, is available in the Google Sheet that is linked in the show's description. Picks that get an A are the ones I love, picks that get a B are the ones I like, and picks that get a C are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say the model will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, speaking of how the model will perform, yesterday was a pretty good day for the model, up a little bit over in that Google Sheet. Otherwise, what did we learn yesterday?
We learned that Providence is a very good team. They won last night with their best guard and their best player going scoreless and only playing 18 minutes, which is a kind of a big that shows how deep they can be. They also erased Xavier's best guard. He played 25 minutes and did not score. So that means they had a great game on both ends of the floor. Providence is a little thin running a seven-man rotation, but it seems to be working. So they are a very good team right now.
Yeah, and I mentioned last night, right, when Providence loses, they lose big. Well, that wasn't an issue last night because they didn't lose at all. And if you kind of took that advice and ran with it and said they either aren't going to cover or if they are, it's because they're going to win outright, you made a pretty little penny there on that money line in a very impressive win last night for Providence.
And this Marquette team is very good. They took advantage of the situation Seton Hall's in and handled them. They're very good on the defensive end. They held Seton Hall to 63 on 33% shooting, and that's kind of a really good feat for them. But offensively, they're a little scary. Justin Lewis scored 33 on 19 shots last night, and only one other person hit double digits at 10. Other than that, nobody else really scored. So it's just a little worrisome to be so dependent on one player offensively.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they keep it rolling, and they looked really good last night. We talked about this yesterday, right? Two Big East games that I just wasn't overly confident, didn't really know which way to go, thought we learned a lot. And I mean, both of them weren't as interesting and close as we would hope, right? But it did tell us a little bit there that this Marquette team, we keep talking about them, at some point they're going to fail to cover, but last night wasn't it. They continue to roll. Seton Hall, I really hope they can get healthy because when they do and they get rolling again, they're a lot of fun. But they're really struggling here these last two games.
That just has to be so frustrating as a coach and as a team, like knowing you were this kind of good and then not being able to get there because you can't get the team on the floor.
Right. Just like yesterday, we're going to do kind of the same thing here. We're going to start off with actually two kind of under the radar games that we both really like before shifting into the Big Ten slate that's on this Thursday evening and talk about those games. So we're going to start off with Delaware at Towson. I've got an A pick for you here. Towson minus 4.5. The model thinks they should be favored by 7.5. The model has underrated them all year and finally come around. I really like that when the model's kind of recognized where it's failed and really decided now that this is the spot for them. I think they win this one pretty handily. Jake, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I really like this Towson team. They're 5-4 covering at home as the home favorite, but they're a very good shooting team. They shoot free throws fairly well at 71%, but at home that jumps up to almost 80. So the covering the 5 points, if it gets close, it shouldn't be a thing for them. They're a very balanced team. They've got four guys averaging double digits, but Cameron Holden is the main guy. He's leading in points, rebounds, and steals. And 3 days ago, these two teams played at Delaware, and Towson won. But Holden had 6 steals to go on his 19 points, and then he was 9 of 10 for the free throw line. With him being a guard, the ball's going to be in his hands a lot. He's going to hit a very good free throw percentage, so they should cover pretty easily. And this Delaware team is a good shooting team, and they're not when they can hold on to the ball. They're good offensively. It's just they turn the ball over too much, and I think that's the difference in this game is the 14 turnovers they average a game are going to turn into points for Townsend, and it's just going to get out of hand. But Towson's the play.
It makes a lot of sense. And then another one in a pretty similar spot, in my opinion, 7 p.m. Central. Troy at South Alabama. The model thinks that South Alabama should be a 7.5 point favorite. And so I've got a B pick on South Alabama -6.5. Jake, I think a lot of people are going to, if they're talking about this game, it might fly under the radar for a few. But if you're talking about this game, I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, this might be closer than the experts think, right? To kind of pull the line from college game day. I don't think that's correct. I want to hear your take on why you think that's wrong.
I think the biggest part is Troy is just not very good offensively. They rank in the bottom third in efficiency. They turn the ball over 15 times a game. And they run, I don't understand this. They've got one guy averaging above 10 points. They run a 9 or 10 man rotation, and hardly any of them are like in the 8 to 9, like pushing double digits range. It's more of like 5, 6, 7. So I don't know, as I haven't watched them enough to understand why the coach is rotating so many guys in and out, taking them out of rhythm. But the South Alabama team is very underrated. They've won 4 in a row. The last two of which at home. They score when they score over 70. They win all the time, almost all the time. They've won, I think, 11 of their 14 wins of when they've scored over 70. They're a very good defensive team. They don't force a lot of turnovers, but that shouldn't be a problem with the way Troy gives it away. They rank in the middle of efficiency on offense, but they've got a guy in Charles Manning Jr. who is just incredible to watch. He's averaging close to 20 points. He's got about 4 assists a game, and then plays really good defense, averaging almost 2 steals a game on top of that. They shoot over 70% from free throws as a team, and they are just a very solid team defensively. I think that is the biggest difference. Is I don't think Troy's going to be able to score enough to keep it close.
Yep, I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And now moving on to the Big Ten portion of this episode, we're going to cover all 3 of the bigger games of the evening. We're going to go back in time here, 4 p.m. Central, early start. Make sure you take note of that. Wisconsin at Nebraska. Model thinks Wisconsin should be a 9.5 point favorite, so it's a B pick for me on Wisconsin at -7.5. A couple of notes here. First off, I cannot imagine the home atmosphere being very good for Nebraska with a 4 p.m. local tip-off and a disappointing basketball team, so that's one thing to take note of. Also, Nebraska has not played in 10 days. If there's any rust there, the model's not really taking that into account, but if there is any rust, this could get ugly. I will note Nebraska is a team that I don't think is quite as bad as the numbers are making them out to be. In general, they've covered a few times. They've had some blowouts, of course, but I think in general, I think Nebraska's playing a little better. And they're a team that I'd be looking to kind of back when they're getting too big of a number. But this isn't the spot for that, in my opinion, against this Wisconsin team, the way that Wisconsin's playing, again, with a sleepy home crowd. I'd rather take Nebraska plus a giant number on the road when the other team doesn't really care. But with a smaller number here against Wisconsin, who's just been absolutely on fire, I don't think this is that spot. I like Wisconsin to cover the number. Jake, what's your take?
Yeah, no, Wisconsin's the play here. I'm not sure why this one's under 10. I mean, they might be factoring in Tyler Wall not playing, but he's listed as probable, so I don't know whether he plays tonight or not on that bad ankle, but they are just Wisconsin is just an incredible offensive team. They don't turn the ball over. They lead the nation in not turning it over. They're very solid defensively. They've got Johnny Davis, who there's not really a bad matchup for him. He's just going to take advantage of whoever they put on him. And if Brad Davidson keeps shooting like he has been the last 2, I don't see where Nebraska has the talent to keep up. They've got 2 good guards and Verge Jr. and McGowan's, but after that, it's a huge drop off. Nebraska has lost 11 of their last 12, and 7 of those have been double digits, and 5 of them have been at home. They're just, like you said, there's not going to be much of a home court advantage. Nobody's going to want to watch this team. They're not even losing fun. Like, it's not a fun team to watch, even though they're not doing well. So it's going to end poorly for them.
Yep. But like you said, they're losing a lot by double digits. I'd feel much more comfortable taking Nebraska plus 15 and a half or something on the road in a situation where the other team just might give up in the second half. But yeah, this number's way too short, in my opinion. Moving on from what should be the blowout Big Ten game of the day to one that should be a little bit more entertaining, Ohio State at Minnesota. The model thinks that Ohio State should only be a 5-point favorite. So I've got a B pick on Minnesota plus 6.5. I don't really know what to make of this game. I think that both of these teams have been extremely inconsistent, as have been a lot has been the case with a lot of teams in college basketball this year. I do think that Ohio State will have a lead late. Again, I think they do win by 5. I think the big question is that lead 2 and it stays short, or is that lead 5 or 6 and then they put them away with some free throws? So I feel like this could go either way. I'm on the side of Minnesota. Jake, which side are you on?
So I'm leaning Ohio State, but I'm kind of waiting more game time because Wheeler being possible to be out makes a big difference. He leads the team in assists and is who runs the offense. And I mean, EJ Liddell is easily the best player on the court tonight. Him and and Jamison Battle will be a fun matchup to watch. But Wheeler playing or not will be a big difference for Ohio State because they don't really have a good point guard after him. And we've seen this when he was been out. They kind of struggle to get the ball to EJ, and when EJ does get the ball, he's farther away from the bucket, so it's depending more on that jump shot than his back to the bucket game. Minnesota has just had as one of those teams. I think they're playing better than what their record is. They've beat everybody they're supposed to. They've lost some hard games to teams that they like. They had a chance to beat Michigan State, I think, at home, and they've had a couple of chances. Like Illinois game, I think, was kind of close, and a few one like that. So they keep playing better and better. I just don't think they're quite there yet, especially if Wheeler comes back. But one of their biggest issues right now is their point guard, the main guy, gets into the game, gets everything into the game. Peyton Willis. When he gets it down close to these games, he's for a point guard very uncharacteristically shoots 57% from free throw. So all of a sudden, at the end of the game, you can't give the guy to get your offense going the ball because you don't want him splitting free throws and letting the team come back. So it's kind of a risky situation. But I lean Ohio State if Wheeler plays. If not, I'm more on Minnesota.
And of course, the question always is how effective is a player coming back from an injury? You have the rust factor. You have the are they 100% healed? And we kind of saw this a little bit with COVID too, with like people's legs, people's lungs, that sort of thing. That was just a whole different scenario because we sometimes didn't know if a guy just had the rust and didn't have any symptoms, right, or how it affected him. But with the body injury, it's a little more clear. You have a guy with an ankle, right? How is he going to be able to handle the pivoting, the jumping, right? You have a guy with with a hip injury or whatever, something like that. If he gets bumped around down low, how's that going to affect them? I mean, you have all sorts of different things to consider with that injury. So that's definitely the key note for that one. And then we're going to finish up here with the game of the night, in my opinion, 8 p.m. Central, Purdue at Iowa. The model thinks that this total should be a shade over 160, and in my opinion, that might even still be a little too low. I like the over in this game. I think 157 is just not enough points. I don't know who wants to slow this pace down, and I don't know who can slow this pace down. I think this will be a really fun, entertaining game with a lot of points. So I'm on the over. Jake, what's your opinion here?
I'm on Iowa. I think they win outright, but I love getting an extra kind of buffer layer of the 2.5 they're getting. They are a really good offensive team. I mean, everybody's going to talk about how Purdue is the best offensive team, most efficient, but Iowa's number 4, so it's not that big of a difference. When you look at efficiency metrics, they hit free throws great as a team, shooting 77%. They're really not that bad defensively, and that's where the difference between these two teams are. Purdue's been struggling defensively, where Iowa's in the top 100 at least in efficiency rankings, and they forced 15 turnovers a game, and that goes up to a little over 16 at home. The home court advantage is huge here, and if you look at the records and everything, yeah, Purdue beat Iowa at Purdue, and that was also without Keegan Murray. So that's a huge loss on this Iowa team. So adding him back in, and it was only a 7-point win, I would think Iowa would look like the better team. In that previous matchup, though, the big guys were a big issue for Iowa because I mean Edey didn't play that well, but Williams had 13 and 18. But Ivy was the leading scorer, and he missed last game and is probable for this game on groin injury. So that's one of those that we keep an eye out for because I think if it gets announced, that line totally flips. That if Ivy's out, so grab Iowa while you can, because I just don't think he's going to play tonight, but I could be wrong. And also, Purdue has not done well on the road. They're 0-3 as a road favorite this year.
That's a great nugget. I think that one, again, should be a lot of fun to watch. Cannot recommend tuning into that one enough. That does it for our game breakdowns. Now we're going to move on to the buzzer beater content. This is your exclusive pod content here. I've got the total of the day. St. Mary's at San Francisco, under 130. That's a late night tip. I think that'll be a great game to watch, and that feels like a game where two teams are going to grind it out, really want to start slow, want to feel their opponent out, kind of like a heavyweight boxing match. If the game is tight late, every possession is going to matter. Teams aren't going to want to turn the ball over. They're looking for that perfect shot. They're using 20, 25 seconds of the shot clock. I like that one under 130. The total of the day that's not an official play in this sheet. That's because I have a pick on the side of this game. Murray State at Tennessee Tech. I like the under 144.5. I think that Murray State obviously is a great team, but Tennessee Tech, if they have any hopes of pulling what would be a huge home upset, they are going to have to really slow down the pace. There's no reason for them to go up and down with Murray. If they get no track me, they are absolutely hosed. So I see them wanting to slow that pace down. So I like that one under 144.5. The A-plus pick of the day, 9 p.m. tip-off, Portland minus 2.5. This game is the same as we talked about yesterday with Seattle, only being a 3-point home favorite. I think the bookmakers are overwhelmed with a bunch of other things and just kind of hung a number on this one. But this line makes zero sense to me. I think Portland gets an easy home win. That's your A-plus pick of the day. The best B-side, Loyola Chicago minus 6 at Southern Illinois. What I like about this Loyola Chicago team is that they finish at the end of games. They do not mess around. They want to score. They want to extend their lead, which makes me feel confident about them covering 6. Every dog has its day. 7 p.m. Northern Illinois is plus 130. That's a B pick versus Ball State. I like these short home dogs. So I think Northern Illinois can get the outright victory there. And then last for me, the plug your nose and play game, 6:30 Central, Rice plus 11.5. That's a B pick at Louisiana Tech. Rice has been good to us. I think they can keep this inside the number. It's going to be an ugly game. Rice isn't a great team, but you're getting too many points, in my opinion, on that one. Jake, your buzzer beaters.
I like this USC team, right? They're going to be angry at this Stanford team for beating their unbeaten streak, and Stanford's just not very good. Especially guard-wise, and playing right into USC's advantage. Colorado, I like them minus 2.5. This Washington team's not very good. They just beat them maybe a week ago by 14. I don't know why the line shrunk so much. So 2.5 is a good number for them. And I love this Liberty team. This Liberty team shoots the ball so well from everywhere on the floor, and there's just there's too much offense for this not very good North Alabama team. So they're minus 14.5. It's a good number. Liberty
is definitely a really fun team. They're one of those teams that I hope can get through their conference tournament and make it to March Madness, because if so, they're going to be a fun one in that scenario. And that is all that we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. A reminder, check out that Google Sheet for all picks and totals for every game today. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button. We will get you a new episode every weekday of the college basketball season. We will see you tomorrow. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.